Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. My name is Curtis and I'm here with my co-host Aaliyah, who is the junior publicist at C Squared. And we are here today with Mordian, a dark gothic singer who's going to be talking to us about a lot of different things. And it's very exciting. She recently released a single in June, I think it was, and it's very, very cool. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, thank you everyone for joining.
You're welcome. So now, Aaliyah, we are going to go over to you.
Okay, Mordian, just so for our listeners who aren't familiar with your work, could you give us a little summary of Mordian and who you are, what you do, what kind of music you make?
Yes, so I am Mordian. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. My music, I like to say, darkened music. Oh my God, guys. No. Okay. I'm so sorry.
You call it music for the darkened heart, I believe, right?
Yes. Gothic alternative for the darkened heart.
There you go.
I say that because I think that I would really like my music to reach those who have a similar soul and emotion when they listen to music.
Okay, and similar soul and emotion. Yeah, I like it. I feel like that's kind of connected with the aesthetic of the music, and yeah, so I think that it's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I haven't had enough of my my coffee today, but I will try to re-energize myself. But yeah, my music is, I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope to reach those who appreciate and feel the same way about things that I do. I definitely have a darker spirit than I think majority of people that I know. And so I know that there's other people out there who will really connect with my music the way I do. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think you have a pretty wide range of influences. You know, you just released that playlist with Next Mosh, that Moody Night Drive. And I think if there's one thing that's evident from that playlist is that you have a wide range of influences outside of metal. And yeah, I feel like it. Do you feel like that helps you as a musician to have that kind of broad-reaching spectrum of influences?
Absolutely. Yeah, I listen to literally everything out there, and I think that I definitely try to put that into my music. I have so many influences, especially the classical music side really shows in my music. But on my most recent track that I released, I listened to a lot of like stoner doom metal and alternative music, like a lot of like Regina Spektor, Fiona Apple. So I think a lot of those things I try to kind of put in there. But I'm glad that you recognize that. And yeah, that playlist, I definitely tried to keep it super diverse. But those are for my personal night drive playlists. So yeah, but they all give me that same feeling of just like summer ending and like just cruising on a chilly night. So yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question, Aaliyah, if I may.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So now I wanted to know, why did you release the song in June instead of waiting till like winter or fall, just out of curiosity?
Well, I just didn't want to wait, honestly.
Okay.
It was a long time since I put out the EP, and I felt like something was just telling me to release it. And I don't think I think it's a good indicator of kind of who I am in a way. Like I want to bring that feeling of winter and desolation into my summer, you know, why not? So,
Fair.
but yeah, that's pretty much the straight up answer. I just didn't want to wait any longer or put it off. And I know that there was other things that I wanted to release before the end of the year and before that track, or
Fair.
sorry, after that track. So I didn't want to have the other tracks I'm going to release come out before that one.
Fair enough. Cool. I'm done my follow-up.
We know that you have eclectic music taste, but you do have a very strong affinity for metal. And I wanted to know if you could tell us a little bit about how you first got into metal and who your first favorite artists were.
So I think what originally got me into metal, my brother showed me Motorhead. And as soon as, you know, my mom was like, oh no, don't show her that. Yeah, as soon as I heard that, it was just like game over for me, man, you know? And then, yeah, from there, I discovered so many things on my own. And I've just loved it ever since. But yeah, when I was like 9 or 10, I had this app on my iPod called iTube, and it was like knockoff YouTube, and you could just save everything to your phone. It was before YouTube had like any of that YouTube music stuff where you could download it. So you could download it through this app, and it would recommend you like similar artists and playlists and all sorts of things. So I found Summoning on there, and that was before I even knew like anything about the genre. And I was like, what the hell is this? But yeah, and that was another thing that is kind of a fun fact and that led me into liking a lot of the things I like now. But I never would have put that together when I was like 9 or 10. And like now I just love black metal and I'm super into it. And I never would have thought that when I was younger. So yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of cool to think back retroactively about how we discovered the bands that we love the most now, and like what circumstances precipitated that and all of that.
Right. So, what planted the seed.
Right. And now I've gotten lost. So Curtis, if you go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's stay with the topic of black metal for a second. So what was your first black metal band? I don't think you mentioned.
Oh, I got into Summoning when I was really young. And then I discovered Mayhem, of course, for all the classics. My favorite would probably have to be Bathory. Yeah, Bathory, Summoning. Damn, who else? There's so many people. I listen to a lot of more like underground stuff kind of too. Like this band on my shirt, actually, they're called Gallow Braid.
Nice.
It's actually just one guy, but super dope music. It's like blackened folk metal kind of stuff, and I love it.
So now you're like, at least in my experience with your music, I think I've listened to all of your stuff. You're not that close to black metal. So are you planning on incorporating more of that into your sound at some point, or am I missing something completely?
Yes. I'm not trying to call myself a black metal artist by any means. I was just talking about, you know, the things I love. But yeah, I think that you'll definitely see more of that heavy side and black metal influences come through on this album that I'm working on. So.
Okay.
Album? Full length album?
At least 8 tracks. So,
that's a full length.
Yeah.
That counts. Nice.
You should release the 8 tracks on an 8-track cassette just to fuck with people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's a good idea. So on that note, go ahead, Chris.
But I do want to ask this question though. Just my final question before Leah goes ahead. Are you planning on releasing it on any physical formats, or is it going to be just digital?
I would definitely do CDs.
Cool.
Maybe like limited edition vinyl or something like that too.
I'm done.
Cool. I think one thing that you do have in common with black metal is that you have a very strong and distinctive aesthetic. And I don't think it's just easily summarized as Gothic. I think it's a little bit more complex than that. And I was just wanting to kind of pick your brain on how you felt out your image and aesthetic, and who your biggest style icons were, or what inspired you to have such a unified aesthetic. Or is it just an expression of who you are and it just happens to be that it's really cohesive?
Well, I would say the latter, and thank you. I don't really think of myself as a cohesive person, but yeah, I think my music is just an expression of who I am and the things that I love and how I want to show that to other people. There are so many things I love that tie into, I guess, my aesthetic. Besides music, like art, I love just spending time in nature, Tim Burton, anything weird and spooky, Halloween time, fall. I know you mentioned style icons. Of course, like Morticia Adams, Soregger from Kara Gongren. I love his style. Oh, Dita Von Teese was definitely inspiration when I was younger.
So classy.
Yeah, I read her book a few years ago, and that really, it was definitely inspiring and influential for me. And it had a lot of great points on just like your own, the beauty of who you are as a person, and like fuck beauty standards. And so it's just a great book, so I recommend it to anyone.
I might have to borrow that from you. I want to read it, but I have not yet. Do you read a lot?
Not as much as I'd like to anymore, but I actually just recently rearranged my bookcase with all my newer books that have been sitting unread. So yeah, I do have a lot of things to read, but yeah, I'll have to get started on that.
As we all have our reading lists. What's next on your reading list?
There's a book by someone named Frank McOwen, I want to say, and it's called The Mist-Filled Path, and it's just like Celtic spirituality, but it has really great reviews. And I found him. Someone had mentioned his website online, so yeah, I looked him up, and now he actually goes by a different name, but he's still an author and seems really interesting, his backstory from what I saw. So yeah, that's next on my list.
Celtic spirituality, do you consider yourself a spiritual person?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so. Yeah, I align most deeply with Celtic and Norse kind of spiritual values as a person. But yeah, my spirituality is a very deep-rooted and personal thing for me, and always an ongoing journey. So yeah.
You feel like that kind of comes into play in your music at all, or?
Yeah, I don't really. Okay, I should say on my music that has been released so far, I wouldn't say I've really put or like actively thought about putting my spiritual beliefs or things inspired by that into the lyrics. But music itself is a very spiritual experience for me. Creating it, listening to it. So I would say, yeah, there is like a sense of my spiritual values and spiritual self in my music. On this album I'm going to be doing, yeah, I think lyrically you'll definitely see more of that, but that's not really what I was focusing on portraying in my music thus far.
Yeah, I don't know if it usually comes out intentionally so much as it's just like a part of your expression. When it's important to the core of who you are, it just kind of comes out sometimes.
Yes.
I understand that. I wanted to ask you about your passions outside of music. It sounds like spirituality is one of them. Do you have any other passions outside of music?
I love baking. So yeah, I bake a lot of like cheesecakes and cookies. It's just like I've thought about going to culinary school, but I don't know yet. But yeah, it's something I really like to do in my free time. Definitely a hobby. I just love going on walks, bike riding, making little like herbal tinctures, some potions.
Yeah.
Meditation. Trying to think what else I like to do outside of music. Music is the main piece of my life. So
Sure.
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, it's kind of interesting to me because baking is also kind of like potion making in a way.
Yeah.
It's like interconnected. I like the idea of the kitchen witch, you know.
Oh yeah.
So,
Can I jump in for a second, Aaliyah?
Yeah, go ahead, Curtis.
So, so we were talking about baking for a brief second there and your hobbies and that type of thing. Now, here's my question though. What is your weirdest hobby that you have? Like something like strange, not normal, like you were saying, you already had the walks, you have baking.
Making potions, herbal tinctures.
That's not weird though. There's gotta be,
I don't know if it's like that weird. But I love playing Nancy Drew computer games in my free time. So they're pretty much like meant for like younger kids, I think. But I think some of them are pretty challenging. They're like mysteries and puzzles and stuff. But yeah, I love those.
Like cannibalism or like, rituals, that type of thing.
Oh, occasionally.
Okay.
Well, no cannibalism, none of that. Do no harm.
Do no harm. So okay, so explain that. What? So tell me your do no harm philosophy then. This is interesting.
Oh well, I just believe that you should not. Let's see. I think that everything is sort of an energy exchange, and if you are doing something intentionally to harm others, animals, whatever it may be, the environment, I think that it's going to come back to you threefold. And even harming yourself is never good either. So yeah, I just think that I don't want to be like, oh, karma, but yeah, I would think it's sort of a karmic thing. But for me, it's like a thing of energy, and what you put out will come back to you. So
cool. We could get into a whole discussion on this because I love talking about this type of stuff, but I'm not gonna. So I'm gonna let Aaliyah ask the next question.
It's all good. I love talking about that stuff too, and I like talking about philosophy and perspectives a lot. But I think that actually I've covered all of my pre-planned questions. So we can go off into also I have one last question that's a little more lighthearted, but which is coffee or tea. Now, I thought that you didn't drink coffee, but you mentioned at the top of the episode something about coffee. So
yeah.
Tell us what's going on here.
So I try not to drink coffee every single day, but I do drink it. Well, especially in the fall, I'd be on that pumpkin spice latte life, absolutely. But I drink coffee usually midday, probably like 4 days a week. I've definitely been drinking it more than I used to. I used to just try and never drink it because I knew that I would want to drink it every day and I didn't want to be addicted to it. But yeah, I've been drinking it a lot more recently, but I do love tea. Like I make a lot of like herbal iced teas, but those don't always satisfy my like the boost that I want. So yeah, I need to be on that coffee life for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, do you feel like it affects your voice at all, drinking coffee?
I personally, I wouldn't say like drastically, but I wouldn't want to drink it before a performance because I have noticed sometimes when I'm just recording demo stuff at home and I'm drinking coffee that I feel like I always have to clear my throat. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I put too much cream in the coffee because like, yeah, I feel like I drink more cream than coffee. So it could be that. I've heard like dairy and milk aren't good to drink before you sing. Yeah, I don't think it would like negatively impact your voice like permanently or anything, but I think it's also a factor of dehydration because coffee is like, yeah, dehydrating and you want to be hydrated. So yeah, definitely would not drink before a performance, but I think it's fine for practicing and yeah.
So can I ask a question, Leah, or?
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So we had talked on a previous episode, not with you, but we have talked with other people about this, about the question that always comes up, at least with Holly. I know you're not Holly, Leah, but it usually comes up with Holly, is about women in metal and stuff like that. We might as well just do the controversial topic since we got like 15 minutes left anyways. Let's hear your viewpoint on, women in metal nowadays. Is it like an issue like it used to be in the past? Is it no longer an issue? Let's get your viewpoint on it.
Okay, I can give you my personal opinion.
That's what we want, personal.
Yeah. I don't think I'm as involved enough in the like local scene to really be able to give you an insight on what it's like around me, and how women are treated as anyone, any women in metal. I can't really give you the best insight on how men treat us, but I can give you an insight on what I've personally heard from other people, and just what I've seen. I think overall, in the world, I think that women in metal, it's definitely much more of a like widely accepted and mainstream thing now. Like I don't hear a lot of people being like, oh, it's so awesome because they got that girl singer. Like, I haven't heard, or, guitarist, whoever it may be. I haven't heard a lot of people say that as much anymore. So I think it's definitely becoming a lot more accepted and normalized, which is great. But there's definitely still I've known people personally that, they say they love Arch Enemy. And I was like, oh, like, well, what's your favorite Arch Enemy song? And they're like, oh, I don't really know, but like that chick's so hot. Like,
really?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure. We hear it all the time.
Really?
So yeah, in the scene in general, I think that women are definitely becoming more accepted, but on a personal level, I think there are still some like issues. Absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, that goes into a lot of other things, but yeah, as far as the term female fronted metal, which I hear people talk about a lot, I personally wouldn't mind my music being titled that.
I think we pitched you as that, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, I don't take any of that in any way, but I get where a lot of people are coming from. It's just like, it's so much more than that. It doesn't have to be categorized as female fronted metal, why can't it just be metal? But yeah, I think there's two different sides to that coin. And I think some women are on, they don't like that term. For me personally, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
You know, I own being a female. So, yeah.
So, Aaliyah, you look like you want to say something on this. Let's hear your viewpoint on this.
I do. I struggle with the term female fronted metal. I think it is a term. It is a useful term, but it is not a genre. And also, if it was a genre, it doesn't apply to every female fronted metal band. Because when I think of when I was growing up in the female fronted metal scene, there's a specific sound to what people call female fronted metal. It's that symphonic, it's not too intense. It's kind of almost power metal, but not as fast as power metal. It's more soaring, sort of smooth. And like Nightwish, like Delane, like Xandria, Leaves Eyes, who else? I mean, there's a vast number of bands I could name from when I was growing up. And I think that's what people think of when you use the term female fronted metal. It's not as useful when you're talking about other types of music, because people who are into quote unquote female fronted metal, if they hear a female fronted death metal band, they're not going to like it.
Probably not.
So I don't know if it's very useful to use. It's not very useful to use for all female fronted bands. Do you catch what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I do.
Totally get your viewpoint. Yeah.
My only thought on the whole thing is I agree with both of you. My only thing is I think sometimes it's useful because there are some people that prefer female vocalists over male vocalists. So if you don't, but I mean, you don't necessarily have to use that, I guess, but.
Yes, and there's the opposite too.
Yeah.
Like my mom doesn't like female vocalists, generally
There you
speaking.
go. Yeah.
Generally speaking, there's exceptions, but there are certain qualities to a male voice and certain qualities to a female voice. I will say those lines blur a lot more when you get into guttural and harsh vocals.
Yeah, I agree.
They're much more distinct in clean vocals.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with the death metal band. It's probably not. It's not needed in the slightest. Most cases, unless they got some clean singing going in there. But yeah. Right.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't generally use it as a genre. It's more like
the genre. No. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a tricky one. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I mean, I was just remembering when I listened to the episode with you, Gaia, Holly, and who was the third?
I believe Sarah. I believe it was Sarah was on there from Book of Worms, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
They were talking about female fronted metal lineups, like a show, and how sometimes the bands didn't mesh very well because the only qualification they were using to select the bands was whether they were female fronted or not.
And that's
so
dumb.
It's really has to be a more nuanced approach, a little bit.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, like I said, I can see it where you're trying to advertise that it's a female or male vocalist, but at the same time, most of the time it doesn't really make much sense because it's not a genre. So moving right along, now that we've gotten the controversial topic out of the way, actually, Laura, is there anything else you wanted to say on that before we move on? Got about 5 minutes left.
I don't think on that topic.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so now, Aaliyah, before I ask my question, do you have one?
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So next question that I had is, so for the next album that you have coming out, what's the projected release date that you're thinking it's going to be coming? Because you said you had 8 tracks. I don't think you said when-ish you were planning on releasing.
Yeah, so no date planned. It depends on how fast I would be able to work, basically. I have a few other things coming out before that's going to really be the main focus. So there's a couple covers and then an original track or 2. But there is a cover coming out in October. It's going to be super cool. It's Nightmare Before Christmas, and I'm really excited about that. It's a collaboration. So you'll be seeing that very soon, or I should say hearing that very soon. But yeah, for the album that I want to do, I'm hoping for next year, most likely next fall or winter.
Cool. And it's going to be like and you said it's going to be a little bit of a heavier style. Did I understand that correctly or no?
Yes. So I kind of have a overall message or an underlying message throughout each song. So all shall be revealed soon enough. But yeah, it's kind of taking things in a different direction from the EP and branching off of January Moon's sound and like vibe.
Interesting. Okay, I'm curious to hear what that sounds like then. Okay, well, I think we're almost out of time. Aaliyah, did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Mordian as a final thing?
I forgot it. I had one and then I forgot it.
Cool. I'm gonna ask, I got one more then.
Go.
What's a local band you would recommend if you can think of one, Mordian?
Around me?
Yeah, local.
Misfire. They're a thrash band. They're pretty good, up and coming. So I know they just got signed to a label recently, but I go see them at the Forge all the time in Joliet. They play there a lot as an opener, but yeah, they have
nice.
They got some guts to their music.
Nice. I'm going to be checking it. Okay, I guess that is all, guys. Thank you very much for coming on. And with that,
thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming on.
And with that, we got to get. We need the Aaliyah sign off.
Everyone, until next time, make like a bull, throw those horns up.